Two countries separated by a narrow strait and 60 years of complicated history are locked in an economic rivalry that will determine Southeast Asia's future. Singapore, the gleaming city-state that became Asia's wealthiest nation through sheer determination and strategic brilliance. Malaysia, the resource-rich neighbor with 450 times Singapore's land area and unlimited potential. For decades, Singapore dominated this rivalry. Their GDP per capita is $90,674 compared to Malaysia's $11,867. Singapore ranks first globally in economic freedom, while Malaysia ranks 50th. Singapore is richer, more efficient, more developed, the obvious winner. But here's what makes the next decade fascinating. The rules of the game are changing, and Malaysia's advantages might finally matter more than Singapore's efficiency. In this video, we're analyzing the Singapore-Malaysia rivalry through 7 critical factors that will determine who wins the 2025 to 2035 decade. From demographics to debt, from space to sustainability, we'll reveal why this isn't the one-sided competition it appears to be. By the end, you'll understand why Malaysia might pull off the biggest upset in Asian economic history, or why Singapore will prove once again why small, smart countries beat big, resource-rich ones. Let's break down the rivalry that's reshaping Southeast Asia. Round 1. Economic growth, Malaysia's surprising edge. Here's the first shock. Malaysia is growing faster than Singapore. Malaysia's GDP growth hit 5.1% in 2024, while Singapore managed 4.4%. This isn't a one-year fluke. Malaysia has consistently grown faster for the past 5 years. Singapore is a mature economy, explains Dr. Tan Wei Ming, an economist at the National University of Singapore. We're already developed, wealthy, efficient. Our growth comes from incremental improvements. Malaysia is still developing. They have massive, untapped potential. Their growth comes from catching up. The math supports this. Singapore's GDP is $547 billion, but growth is slowing as they reach the limits of what a 728 square kilometer city-state can achieve. Malaysia's GDP is $422 billion, but they have 330,000 square kilometers of developable land, natural resources, and a young population. Singapore is running out of room to grow. Malaysia is just getting started. Winner, Malaysia. Faster growth rates favor the country with room to expand. Round 2. Wealth per person, Singapore's crushing dominance. But raw growth means nothing if you're starting from behind. Singapore's GDP per capita is $90,674, the 7th highest globally. Malaysia's is $11,867, ranking 81st. Adjusted for purchasing power, Singapore ranks 2nd globally at $150,689, while Malaysia ranks 60th at $38,729. This isn't close, admits Ahmad Karim, a Malaysian economist. Singapore is almost 8 times wealthier per person than Malaysia. Their workers are more productive, better paid, and enjoy higher living standards. Malaysia is growing faster, but we're decades behind in actual wealth. The wealth gap affects everything. Singapore's government can invest in infrastructure, education, and innovation from a position of strength. Malaysia must choose between development and fiscal responsibility. Singapore attracts global talent with high salaries. Malaysia loses talent to countries offering better pay. Wealth compounds, and Singapore has been compounding for 60 years. Winner, Singapore. Individual wealth and quality of life remain vastly superior. Round 3. Debt and fiscal health, the hidden disaster. Here's where the rivalry gets interesting. Singapore's government debt is 174.9% of GDP, the 5th highest debt-to-GDP ratio globally. Malaysia's is 70.1%, ranking 55th. Wait, isn't lower debt better? Not necessarily. Singapore's debt is strategic, explains financial analyst Priya Sharma. They borrow at near-zero rates and invest in infrastructure and assets that generate returns exceeding borrowing costs. It's sophisticated financial engineering. Malaysia's debt is different. It's from spending they couldn't afford, and they're paying significant interest. But here's the problem. Singapore's debt strategy works in a stable, low-interest rate world. If global interest rates rise or confidence falters, 174% debt to GDP becomes catastrophic. Malaysia's lower debt gives them more flexibility if economic shocks hit. Over the next decade, fiscal flexibility might matter more than fiscal engineering. Winner, draw. Singapore's debt is smarter, but Malaysia's is safer. Round 4. Space and natural resources, Malaysia's permanent advantage. This is where geography decides everything. Singapore is 728 square kilometers, smaller than New York City. Malaysia is 330,411 square kilometers, 454 times larger. Singapore has no natural resources. Malaysia has oil, gas, palm oil, rubber, timber, rare earth minerals, and some of the world's oldest rainforests. Singapore built wealth through our brains because we have nothing else, says James Uy, a Singaporean business consultant. Malaysia has everything nature can provide: resources, space, biodiversity. They've underutilized these advantages for decades, but if they get governance right, their natural endowment is unbeatable. Singapore imports everything: food, water, energy. Malaysia exports everything Singapore lacks. As the world shifts towards sustainability, resource security, and supply chain resilience, Malaysia's natural advantages become strategically critical. Singapore can't manufacture land or resources no matter how smart their policies are. Winner, Malaysia. Geography is permanent, and Malaysia's is vastly superior. Round 5. Demographics, the population time bomb. Singapore's population is 6 million with the world's lowest birth rate, 0.97 children per woman. Their population is aging rapidly, and they depend on immigration to maintain workforce size. Malaysia's population is 33.5 million with a 1.7 birth rate. Their population is younger, growing naturally, and provides domestic market scale Singapore can never achieve. Singapore's demographic crisis is existential, warns Dr. Lisa Chun, a demographer. By 2040, a third of Singaporeans will be over 65. Healthcare and pension costs will explode while the working-age population shrinks. Malaysia faces aging too, but they have 20 more years before it becomes critical. Demographics determine everything: consumer markets, workforce availability, innovation capacity, and tax-based sustainability. Singapore must import workers perpetually, creating social tensions. Malaysia has a ready domestic workforce and can actually afford slower immigration. Over a decade, this demographic difference will compound significantly. Winner, Malaysia. Young, growing populations beat old, shrinking ones. Round 6. Economic diversification, Malaysia's hidden strength. Singapore's economy depends on financial services, trade, and high-tech manufacturing. Malaysia's economy spans manufacturing, agriculture, resources, Islamic finance, tourism, and services. If global finance crashes, Singapore crashes. If one Malaysian sector struggles, others compensate. Diversification is insurance, explains economic strategist Amina Hassan. Singapore optimized for efficiency by specializing. Malaysia spread risk by diversifying. Neither strategy is wrong, but in uncertain times, diversification protects better than specialization. Singapore's concentrated efficiency worked brilliantly in a stable, globalized world. But deglobalization, trade wars, and geopolitical tensions threaten specialized economies dependent on global flows. Malaysia's messy, diversified economy is more resilient to disruption. If China-US tensions escalate or global trade collapses, Malaysia survives better than Singapore. Winner, Malaysia. Economic resilience beats efficiency in unstable times. Round 7. Innovation and competitiveness, Singapore's unmatched excellence. But none of Malaysia's advantages matter if they can't execute. Singapore ranks first globally in economic freedom, fifth in innovation, and consistently tops ease of doing business indexes. Malaysia ranks 50th in economic freedom and struggles with corruption, bureaucracy, and policy inconsistency. Singapore executes flawlessly, admits Vikram Patel, who operates businesses in both countries. Permits take days, not months. Regulations are clear and enforced fairly. Corruption is virtually zero. Malaysia has great potential, but execution is inconsistent. That gap in governance quality is why Singapore wins despite Malaysia's natural advantages. Singapore's competitive advantage isn't resources or size, it's institutional excellence. They transformed a tiny island with no advantages into Asia's wealthiest nation through superior governance, strategic vision, and relentless execution. Malaysia has talked about reaching developed status for decades, but keeps falling short because execution doesn't match ambition. Winner, Singapore. Institutional quality and execution capability remain vastly superior. The verdict: who wins the next decade? After analyzing 7 critical factors, here's the scorecard. Malaysia wins: growth rate, natural resources, demographics, diversification, 4 points. Singapore wins: wealth per capita, innovation/competitiveness, 2 points. Draw: debt and fiscal health, 0.5 points each. On paper, Malaysia has more winning factors. But here's the truth. Singapore's 2 advantages, wealth and execution, might outweigh Malaysia's 4 advantages. Because wealth funds everything else, and execution determines whether advantages become achievements. The most likely outcome? Singapore maintains absolute wealth superiority, but Malaysia closes the gap. By 2035, Malaysia might reach $25,000 GDP per capita, while Singapore reaches $120,000. Malaysia wins in growth and relative improvement. Singapore wins in absolute wealth and quality of life. Both countries succeed, just differently. But there's a scenario where Malaysia genuinely wins if they fix governance, reduce corruption, and execute consistently. Malaysia with Singaporean-level execution would be unstoppable. Resources, space, population, and competence combined. That's the potential that terrifies Singapore. The wild card, Johor-Singapore integration. Here's the twist that could change everything. The Johor-Singapore Special Economic Zone. Johor is the Malaysian state directly north of Singapore. Plans exist to integrate their economies, Singapore's expertise and capital with Johor's space and labor. If this succeeds, the rivalry becomes a partnership. Singapore gets land for expansion. Johor gets development and investment. Both win. But if it fails due to political tensions or policy disagreements, the rivalry intensifies as both countries compete independently. We want to hear from you. Which country do you think will win the next decade? Are you betting on Singapore's proven excellence or Malaysia's untapped potential? If you've lived in both, which did you prefer and why? Drop your predictions in the comments. If this breakdown gives you a new perspective on Southeast Asia's most important rivalry, smash that like button and subscribe. Watch next. Why expats are leaving Singapore for Malaysia. Real people explain why they're making the move despite Singapore's wealth.